Today, more than 10% of all Americans can trace their ancestry back to the Mayflower. For a time, Plymouth provides the sanctuary they sought. But like Jamestown, there were others here first. April 1621. The Pilgrims have been in the New World for 5 months. Barely half survived the first winter. But they're not the first Europeans to arrive on this coast. 5 years before, European ships brought light-skinned people and plague. Almost 9 out of 10 of the local people are wiped out.
Did he say light-skinned people? When have we ever referred to white people as light-skinned people? Come on, triple.
They teach the English how to grow crops in sandy soil using fish for fertilizer. But they want something in return. Two unlikely allies, a partnership all too rare in North America.
We have found the Indians very faithful in their covenant of peace with us. They are people without any religion or knowledge of any god, yet very trusty, quick of apprehension, ripe-witted,
You just said they have
and
no
just.
God or no religion, bro. I don't know what.
Their victory brings a period of peace to the colony. Their friendship is celebrated in a feast. In time, it will become known as Thanksgiving.
Boy, this shit is crazy. Hey Siri, call Nico. Bruh. Nigga, tell me why I'm watching this documentary and I'm disgusted. Disgusted. Nigga, no, it ain't about slavery. You know how I love a good slavery documentary, nigga. Like, all slavery documentaries and movies should just be preludes to Django. Like, that's the last vision of slavery you see should be a black man and this woman riding off on a horse after killing a bunch of white people. So if you send me whatever you got, on Thanksgiving, I could throw that shit together and... Bruh, hold on 1 second. I'm gonna put you on speakerphone. Hold on. Like legit, like dead ass. If you got anything for it, I'll stop Harlem Story 6 and jump right on it. We can skip Harlem Story 6. We can jump right on the Thanksgiving joint, like, cause I'm disgusted. Disgusted. All the inaccuracies, bro. Like, it's cool to get away with some of that shit, but that shit is just outrageous.
It's like Muggs know, like, of the story of Thanksgiving. Muggs know it was, basically it was a takeover. It was,
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Muggs know what the U.S. did, but they don't know the story.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, nigga, I'm providing you with names. I'm giving you key people. I'm giving you exactly what happened. It ain't just,
Let's get it.
Yeah, they came and took the land and, like, no, I'm telling you exactly what the fuck
Why
happened.
they did it. When they did it.
So, yeah, it's gonna suck the air out of the room.
No chase on me, no chase on me, no chase on me, no chase.
Because we all pretty much knew what happened for Thanksgiving. We all pretty much knew it was some type of takeover. It was a robbery. It didn't really happen the way that they say it happened. But do we know the details? Do we know all the ins and outs? Do we know the names, the dates? Do we know exactly what happened? So we about to get into that this time. When we released a Christmas video a couple of years ago, we received an overwhelming response of appreciation.
You hear that, boy? That's what Christmas is all about.
Actually, Granddad, Christmas is a pagan holiday. And Jesus probably hates you for celebrating it.
There ain't gonna be no Scrooges in this house, boy.
The truth is, Christmas evolved from the Roman holiday Saturnalia, a winter festival where men gave gifts to each other. They also would get drunk, have sex with each other, and beat their wives. People would act so crazy on Christmas, the holiday was outlawed by the Protestant Church until the 1800s. As a matter of fact, the United States Congress... Granddad!
I'm sorry, boy. What was that?
I just explained the entire history of Christmas.
Long before Jesus, there was a Roman holiday called Saturnalia, which actually predates the religion of Christianity itself. So, it's only right that we do one for Thanksgiving. Now, the first Thanksgiving actually was a peaceful event. In 1621, in what we know as Massachusetts, the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag Nation had their first autumn harvest in an event that was actually peaceful. Peaceful, but the whole time they were plotting. So we may call it peaceful, but all they were doing was manipulating. There is a Native American man named Squanto who can speak the English language, and he can guide the Pilgrims to food. In the fall of 1621, the Pilgrims ended up having a huge feast, and they invited the native people. Massasoit ended up bringing about 90 people with him to join the feast. While he was there, he started to feel a little uneasy. When you're in certain settings and you pay attention, you can peep when some BS is about to kick off. The native people felt that the energy just wasn't right. You know when people talk about they just left a spot, they just left the club, and right after they left, a shooting took place or some type of potential danger was lurking. So they felt it. They knew something was wrong. This is when your survival instincts kick in. This is when your warrior instincts kick in. The takeover was already beginning. And in 1637 is when the real disaster struck.
Finally had enough food and they finally had enough to feast. They feast. Like, they got down. They was not bullshitting. And like all good cookouts in America, there's some drinks, man. They were drinking, partying, eating. It sounds like Thanksgiving, right? Now, what's one thing that a good American party is missing once you get the liquor? I'm pretty sure somebody had a loop, right? Somebody had some sort of music. But once you get good food and you're surrounded by good people and you got good liquor, you on a beach, next thing you know, you shooting your guns off. Like that's what the Pilgrims did. As a celebration, they would have target practice. They would just start shooting their guns. Like any good hot-blooded drunk American, just shooting your guns off. So as they're partying, as they're just embracing a great harvest, all the hard work, it had to be difficult as shit. It had to be hard as shit. So they turning up. We've been waiting all year for this harvest. We about to have a good time. We drinking, we shooting our guns off. And as they're doing that, that's what brought the Native Americans. Not the invite, Not the smoke signals, not the smell of food. The Native Americans came because they thought the Pilgrims that they had an agreement with were under attack. They thought they was getting the drop. They thought that's why they rolled up with 90 men. People get it confused. People get it confused because they look like the Amish people, right? They look like just horse and buggy and they just pray all day and none of that shit. No, bro, they were not. Think about people who pull up on boats, get out and start murdering things, kidnapping people, raping people, plundering, looting, setting fires, forcing their religion, sacrificing, praying. Who does that sound like? Does that sound like some Viking shit? The chief of the tribe that saved their lives 10 years before. They captured him, tortured him, cut off his arm, his other arm, his leg, his other leg. Then they cut off his head. Then they sent those pieces to neighboring tribes and then took my man's head, put it on the stake, and left that shit there in the center of town.
It was a deserted Indian village with cleared land, stored supplies of corn, and a reliable source of fresh water. No, these supposedly cruel conquerors never actually invaded that village. Instead, they expressed a fervent desire to pay the natives for the dried corn they found, if only they could find someone to pay. But the former inhabitants had perished during 3 years of plague, probably smallpox, that immediately preceded the Pilgrims' arrival.
But when the Pilgrims got there, right, they got there a year and a half after this epidemic. They get there, they find this small village with food tucked away and weapons tucked away and blankets and shit like that, and they just thought it was from God. They thought like God ordained this to happen. He killed all these people because he knew we were coming, and he set this up for us. Yes, like Jesus. I know, right? Just that's wild. That's wild. That's wild. Like, when have you ever known white people to pay for some shit that they found for free?
Massasoit joined them with 90 of his people and brought along 5 deer for the occasion. Add to that a few eels, some fish, crabs, and a lobster or two, and of course their freshly harvested corns, beans, and squash, and you got yourself the first Thanksgiving dinner. It was a celebration that lasted for 3 days, a harvest festival with sport, games, and friends, like so many others around the world. Days of Thanksgiving, thankful that there will be enough food to eat, and another year survived. Sure, the new land wasn't perfect. It wasn't harmony between man and beast, or a permanent peace between settler and native. But for a time, people set aside their differences and gave their thanks for a chance at life. And many other harvest festivals appear around the world today for just the same thing. And that's the story of the first Thanksgiving.
So later, the Pilgrims' numbers started to grow. And they also clicked up with the Puritans. Now, who are the Puritans?
Following Martin Luther's 95 Thesis, Puritans, or Precisionists as they became known to their critics, believed that the Church of England carried over too much liturgy and ritual from Roman Catholicism. As their numbers multiplied, Puritans were increasingly portrayed by their detractors as hair-splitters who adhered to the biblical Word of God, bereft of any ecclesiastical ritual. While early immigrants to the American colonies were composed mainly of young single men, the Puritan migrations into North America was largely made up of families, bringing with them an intense devotional life that helped them cope with the contradictory requirements of their Christian ethics, leading one group of Puritans to move from the Yorkshire village of Scrooby, first to Holland in 1608, followed by a 1620 migration to Plymouth Rock in New England. A decade later, a much larger group would sail from East Anglia to the Massachusetts Bay Colony, growing their numbers to some 10,000 Puritans by the 1640s.
The Puritans were a religious reform movement, which began in the 1600s. The English state and the church became very unsympathetic to Puritans' demands. Many Puritans migrated to New England, where they played a leading role in establishing Massachusetts Bay Colony, also the Saybrook Colony, the Connecticut Colony, and New Haven Colony. The two groups came together and they felt like God wanted them to control the New World, to enforce order. Now they're taking over land. Now they're taking over resources. Now they're taking over the trade. They ended up killing a man named John Oldham, who was a trader who was trying to get into what they already had. But the response after that was pretty much an all-out war. They returned on May 26, 1637, led by Captain John Mason. They surrounded the village, burned everything from the outside to the inside. They literally set a fire in a circle around the entire village. And anyone who tried to escape was getting annihilated.
After Puritan settlers from Massachusetts Bay Colony spread into present-day Connecticut, conflicts with the Pequot people of southeastern Connecticut set off the Pequot War of 1636 to 1638, which saw English settlers and their Native American allies, the Mohegans and the Narragansett, take up arms against the increasingly violent Pequot. After the English accused Pequot warriors of murdering 13 English settlers and traders in the summer of 1636, Henry Vane and John Winthrop accepted Pequot chief Sassacus's explanation for the murders, who in turn agreed to pay wampum to atone for the deaths. But when Vane sent Massachusetts Bay Colony Governor John Endicott to one of the Pequot's forts to demand additional wampum, at the same time demanding Pequot children be held as hostages to ensure the natives' good behavior, the Pequots refused. After Endicott attacked and burned several Niantic villages on Block Island, followed by a Pequot village along the Connecticut River, the Pequots retaliated with a string of raids on English settlements that persisted into the spring of 1637. With an eye on eliminating the Pequot threat once and for all, Endicott organized a large military force. But before they could march, 200 Pequot warriors responded to the buildup on April 23rd, attacking a Connecticut settlement that took the lives of 6 men and 3 women, while 2 young girls were taken hostage. In response, on May 26th of that same year, set fire to the Pequot's fort at Mystic, before slaughtering upwards of 500 to 700 men, women, and children in less than an hour, although many scholars believe the death toll was far higher than that. Looking to annihilate the Pequot people, a second slaughter took place on June 5th near present-day Stonington, while a third slaughter took place on July 28th near present-day Fairfield, effectively ending the Pequot War, as well as the majority of Pequot people. Of the 3,000 Pequots living in Connecticut prior to the Mystic Massacre, at war's end, an estimated 200 Pequots remained alive. Of the survivors, most were sold into slavery, while a fortunate few were absorbed into other local tribes, making the Mystic Massacre one of the bloodiest events in early colonial history.
Over 400 men, women, and children suffered from this. They destroyed everything in sight and they took everything in sight. Local native tribes had an issue with this. They wasn't used to seeing warfare this type of way. They wasn't used to people handling things like this. A man by the name of John Winthrop, who was the governor of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, declared Thanksgiving as a day of destruction. Not a day of peace, not a day of what we were taught, this peaceful, vibrant day of sharing and caring, but a day of destruction. The Pilgrims and the Puritans, they didn't just stop right there. They also went to different locations and different tribes, killing and raping everything in sight, snatching up all of their children and selling them as sex slaves, putting hundreds of people on boats, shipping them to England, and also scalping people and selling their scalps. Hundreds of decapitations took place. They actually played games with their heads and played games with their scalps. So, not only did you screw over the people who taught you how to farm, not only did you screw over the people who taught you how to fish, not only did you screw over the people who taught you how to hunt, and the people who showed you what exactly to do on their land, you played games with their scalps and with their heads.
Now that's some unscrupulous shit.
This was the outcome. This is the thanks that they got in return. And the chief of the Wampanoag tribe, he was beheaded, and they placed his head on a spike for display for everyone for 24 years.
On August 12, 1676, Metacom was killed. The Plymouth colonists quartered him and sent his arms and legs to different parts of New England, but kept his head on a spike in the middle of town for the next 20 years. 5 days later, they held a day of go-to-church Thanksgiving. Just to reiterate that, after butchering a man, cutting off his head, and mounting it in the middle of town for all to see, they celebrated. Like I said, these are medieval people.
It sat up there and rot for 24 years. So yeah, it was a Thanksgiving, all right. Thanks for giving us y'all land. Thanks for giving us y'all resources. Thanks for giving us y'all skills. That's exactly what it was. But hey, I'm not trying to shame y'all for celebrating on this day. You got a day off from work? Enjoy your friends, enjoy your family. You're surrounded by loved ones. Because 99.9% of us, we don't celebrate these holidays for what they truly are. Nah, it's about enjoying our people. And having connections with our people is the most important thing. Many deathbed confessions from elderly people in nursing homes and stuff like that, they don't talk about that fancy belt they should have bought back in '76. They don't talk about that coat they should have bought or that car. No, they talk about their loved ones. I wish I had a better relationship with my nephew. I wish I was closer with my brother or my sister. So have fun today, especially if you got a paid day off from work. Man, enjoy yourself. I just thought it was important for you to know the history. It's a history channel. Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. And let me know what you think in the comment section. Please follow the History with No Chaser Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram pages. But I truly hope everyone had a break from the daily stress and the daily struggles, and everyone had a great Thanksgiving.